I guess we need to resume our work. The colleagues will join us because they have a very vivid discussion at the coffee. I cannot believe it, but we are at the very beginning of our third panel for today, which is entitled Educational and Scientific Dimensions of Mediation. I will co-moderate this model together with Marina Zaveluk. My name is Mariana Holinska. The first speaker will intervene online, and I will hand it over now to my co-moderator, Marina Zaveluk. Dear colleagues, dear friends, it's a pleasure to welcome you here. We will talk about mediation in the educational and scientific dimension right now. We are very pleased to invite to the microphone our esteemed first speaker of the third panel, Mary Lou Frank, PhD, psychologist, litigation mediator, mediation trainer and consultant from the USA. She will intervene on compassion, trust, and courage, challenges and opportunities for today's mediators. Ms. Frank, we turn it over to you.
It is such a pleasure to see everybody and to be here. And I really want to thank the Ukrainian Academy of Mediators for all the work that they're doing and for this incredible opportunity to bring people together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and just have a few minutes to talk with you about some concepts that I think are very important for our time. Now, my background is a psychologist. So because of that background, you're going to see elements of that throughout the research and the things that we talk about today. But from my perspective, mediation's a journey from learning about ourselves, learning about other people, and probably learning about ourselves again, because it's a very personal opportunity to say, how do we connect with other people? And how can we help them be able to work through conflict? So today I'd like to talk with us about 3 different values and virtues that I think we don't talk about all the time, but I thought they were especially appropriate for the times that we live in now. And I'll begin with trust. We know, as mediators and for individuals who work in this field, that the trust in the mediator is very important. And it's impacted by so many different things. It's impacted by how people see us as being neutral, how people view our competence, our transparency, our openness. If we show respect to other people, if we are honest, if they feel safe in being with us. And the research has been replete about that those are important variables. And kids research back in 2006 looked at exactly when mediators are able to build trust. And they looked at 2 different dimensions that I thought were kind of interesting. The things that made people trustworthy in a mediation were if the parties saw them as caring about what was being said, to make sure that neither side was taken advantage of, and the fact that that individual was seen as somebody who didn't fear conflict. And that'll probably come up again in this talk. But those were the things that led people to believe someone was trustworthy. Someone wasn't seen as trustworthy if they were only interested in cooperation, because people felt they really weren't interested in working through the details and the difficult work of working through the conflict. And if they happened to be seen as biased toward one side or the other, then they weren't seen as trustworthy. But let's look at some more current research. This year, the Edelman Trust Barometer, and the Edelman Foundation puts this out every year, and it's really an excellent piece of information. It's a global index of how people feel about trust in the world today. And there were only 2 countries, China and Thailand, that didn't participate, but all of the other countries that are on this conference at this point in time, my guess is the majority of all of us were probably represented in it. But they found something different this year. They found that 61% of the people who responded to this have a moderate or high sense of grievance. They're unhappy. They're unhappy with the way the world is today. And that's well over half of the respondents saying things aren't right. And their grievances have led to a lack of trust. And if you look at where the high grievance is, it's in all the areas of business, government, NGOs, as well as in the media. But the most amount of distrust, the most amount of grievance is really with government. And the low grievance has a tendency to when people who were not upset, they were happy with all of those areas. But this piece of information concerned me, and I know I've got some people in this age group who are a part of this group we have together today. 40% of the people doing this, taking this survey, said that they approve the way they want to deal with grievance is to use hostility. That means attacking people online, spreading disinformation, threatening violence, or damaging property. For the first time, the way people felt that they needed to deal with grievance had to do with violence. And if you look at it, these were the younger people, or the people from 18 to 34. In their group, it was the younger individuals that said they were the ones who felt hostile activism was the only way they had, the only remedy they had to their grievances to deal and make change. And that's a message all of us need to hear. Now, when trust increases, even economic optimism overpowers grievance. Regardless of how unhappy people are, if we can help them become more trusting of themselves and other people, then there is hope. And who is most trusted in our societies around the world today? Well, interestingly enough, it's not our governmental leaders, our journalists, or our CEOs. It happens to be our scientists, our teachers, our local leaders in our businesses, citizens in our country, our neighbors. That's who we trust. But we don't trust the people who normally would be seen as providing leadership on a global scale. And that's information we need to know, especially as mediators, when we're dealing with people who have grievance. And that's true with everybody who comes into mediation. Something we need to remember is that as mediators, we've got tools to deal with trust. Every time people come into a mediation session in the heat of conflict, we know how to help facilitate that. So we don't ever want to forget that the tools we've been given, the tools that we uniquely have, are the ones that can deal with some of these issues. And remember that even in the microcosm of mediation, the mistrust that is there is of the other party, but it can also be mistrust of the mediator. It can be mistrust of the process being used. And we know from the Galton, Love, and Weiss study that people have issues with trust when the mediator won't allow the parties being together. But mistrust of the whole of mediation itself is still an issue in many parts of the world. So building trust globally it's going to take the skills of mediation to bring people working together. Don't forget that the skills you have are very important. So let's look a minute at compassion. And we know that compassion is different than pity or sympathy or even empathy, where we have a tendency to take on people's concerns, but really is a very help and action focused concept. It means I hear you, I hear your pain, and I want to help. All of the research that came out of Strauss and colleagues, Well and colleagues, and then Paul Bloom back in 2016 and 2017 really differentiated empathy from compassion and really said, even neurologically, that compassion triggers different parts of our brain. And it allows us to be able to help and not get burnt out, which empathy can do. When we take on people's pain and we listen to it and we allow it to affect us, that wears us down. But if we stay focused on how we can help, then we can truly be agents of change and help people alleviate their suffering. But it begins with recognition. We've got to realize the pain and suffering. And that's why some of the research I'm giving you today is so important, because we need to be able to acknowledge the pain that people are in right now. That means showing concern, being kind, being willing to do something, be active in the process. And it can give us energy just knowing we are making a difference. Some people use mindfulness as a way of staying present. Whatever you want to do, but remember your goal is such an important one and can really change things in a mediation. And the first step, the current research, and this came out, Zito and Karasik in October of this year, talked about the most important step we can take is self-compassion. And we as mediators and as people in general have a harder time with that. But what that does is it means we aren't as self-critical. We allow ourselves to accept ourselves and realize that we can be there for ourselves as well as for other people. Accept who we are and be less critical. Compassion's been found in research that Wang just published the middle of this year to help people deal with emotions as well as cope with difficult situations. So it's important to remember that compassion is important, a critical skill we bring to mediation, but also some other areas as well. It's interesting to me that Muhammad Ali's foundation, and many of you remember him as a great boxer, he won several world titles. The legacy that he left was a center that focuses on compassion. And at this point in time, they're only doing the study in America, but because it's the only study of its kind being done, I'm sharing it with you today. And what they found mirrors some of the Edelman study. And it shows that compassion, they found, had decreased in the last 4 years. Not just decreased, but decreased 61%. But at the same time, people are looking for compassion. And people are searching on the internet, saying, I want to know more about compassion, 4,000 more times than they did 5 years prior. So even though they see less compassion in the world, it doesn't mean it isn't important to them. And then they looked at, why are people struggling to be self-compassionate, which tied into the last study I just talked to. And it's because they don't feel as good about themselves. And they are harder on themselves, and they're not as good at taking care of themselves, which is a message to all of us as mediators. But compassion is a complex concept. And all I'm going to say about it is it affects ourselves, it affects individuals, it affects groups, but it affects us at local and national levels also. But there's hope. At least from this study, they said that 70% of the people who were surveyed said that they wanted to reduce any kind of aggressive political rhetoric, and that 43% of them still remained optimistic. But to ever resolve conflict, we need to develop understanding and reach forgiveness. If we want to do those things, we're going to need compassion. And the final thing I want to talk with you about is courage. And I added this one because sometimes I question if I am courageous enough. And I thought, well, if I'm questioning that, I bet other people question it too. Do we do enough to stand up and speak? Do we not do enough to sit down and really listen? In a new book that just came out on how to be bold, the Dalai Lama said, courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act with wisdom and compassion despite uncertainty. It's there. It's reflected in our willingness to stand for truth, to practice forgiveness, and to act selflessly for the benefit of all people. It requires a concept Coleman talked about in the middle of this of 2025 about conflict intelligence. It's knowing how to deal with conflict, which we as mediators do, and also to know how to build satisfaction, empowerment, and well-being. Skills we are uniquely trained to have, something that's in the very core of our being. Now, courage isn't being reckless. It's not being fearless. It's not plunging ahead without reflection or forgetting what we know as mediators. But it's showing up and walking into a room filled with conflict. It's addressing emotions. It's knowing that real mediation is bringing people together. It's leaning into emotions when you aren't sure where it's going to lead, saying what needs to be said, and being vulnerable, and then taking action to address difficult people when they show up, and use your skills in conflicts wherever you find them. It's the courage to listen is the courage to be changed. So learning to listen allows us to also grow as individuals, to move beyond thinking that we're always right. It's working with other mediators and finding teams of support, which we need right now, because all of us think when we watch what's going on, what can I do to help? Not just in our mediation sessions, but in our communities, in our world. Courage includes both trust and compassion. And that leaves us in a place, in a recent study that just came out this last June, 76% of employees surveyed said they'd watched acts of incivility and they encountered it, a number of them encountered it daily. It costs $2 billion a day in lost productivity and absenteeism. And that's up about 50% from over 5 years ago. Our world is full of conflict. And one of the things online that talked about where the top conflicts in the world were showed it's all over. We all have opportunities to address conflict. But we're connected. That concept of Ubuntu, that I am because you are, means we are all in this together. Change begins with each one of us. We can listen and build trust. We can use our skills. We can reach out with compassion. We can be courageous and address conflict where it is. Mediation gives us these skills. If we are unsettled with the way things whirl today, it can teach us to develop trust, to be compassionate, to be courageous. In your life and in mine, we need to remember you're the peacemakers. You're the ones that can make a difference. May peace be with you. Thank you so, so much. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mary Lou.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for highlighting these important things, that courage, trust, and compassion is not about human traits, but it's about the very core of the profession of the mediator. Thank you so much for such a motivating and inspiring speech. And now we go to our next speaker, Ulana Matsura, a student, first year student of higher education, second degree, master's level of education, Lviv University of Trade Economics, Lviv, Ukraine. She'll be speaking about ecologic conflict resolutions for pupils. I will tell you why it was important personally for me a little bit later on. Dear participants of the conference, what in your opinion is this healthy way to address conflicts? I guess each of you studied at school or have children who study at school. We have had a survey among students of the 5th through 9th grades to understand how they usually address conflicts between themselves and whether they know what mediation is. And the results were quite explanatory, because over 95% of school children don't know what mediation is, but they say that conflicts at school happen quite often. Therefore, we decided to hold a lesson of peace and justice developed by the Ukrainian Academy of Mediation together with the Mediation and Self-Governance Development Institute for children, not only to hear what this concept is, but to understand how to practically apply it. And we saw how they ended up in a conflict, and then the school children acted as mediators, helping the protagonists find a mutually acceptable solution. And you'll see now the results of this survey. And we asked the students whether they know what mediation is. And before this lesson of peace and justice and fairness, over 96% of the school children didn't know what that is, and only 3% knew that. After the lesson peace and fairness, everybody knew what mediation is, and the same results were when we asked them whether they know who a mediator is or what a mediator is. Next, we asked how often they have conflicts. The school children said that very quite often, 83.3%, and only 17% said that they were not involved in any conflicts. Then we asked who they most often have conflicts with. Over 83% with children, and only with friends, and only 17% conflicts related to school. Most often, they 5 of them go into fist fights. 47% ask for help, and 47 address them peacefully. Last thing that we asked them, who helps them resolve conflicts. The majority try to resolve conflicts on their own if it's just minor conflict, and 14% of the school children either approach parents or as teachers. Now please have a look at a short video that will show the result of our survey and also a fragment of the lesson itself. And thank you very much for your kind attention. So mediation, improvement of relations, interpersonal relations, achieving mutual understanding in emotionally challenging situations. The video seems to be without sound, or the sound is not properly played online. What grade do you study in? What is a conflict? What is mediation? What helps you resolve conflicts? Conflicts can be resolved in different ways. Sometimes it's useful to approach for help. Sometimes we approach parents. Have you ever heard of mediation? Yes, I heard after the lesson. I learned what that is. It's resolving a conflict through the mediator. Two people address the case without going to court. It's quite a new process when the case is resolved and it's a win-win situation. Do you know who a mediator is? After the lesson of peace and justice, I found out who a mediator is. Mediator is a person who helps resolve a conflict to make sure that both parties have a win-win situation. It's a neutral person that is an intermediary between the parties. What is a conflict? Conflict is when two people can't reach a common opinion. It's like a dispute between two parties. A dispute between two persons. It's a dispute. Do you often have conflicts? Quite often. Who helps you resolve conflicts? I solve them on my own. A teacher. I ask my parents. Mostly myself, but sometimes I approach my seniors or friends. If it's minor things, I can resolve them on my own, but if they are huge and difficult, I ask adults for help.
Usually I discuss. Sometimes I fight, sometimes I talk in a peaceful way. I'm trying to solve the conflicts in a peaceful way. What's your name? My name's Roman. I'm in the 6th grade. Who do you have conflict most often with? Most often I have conflicts with my history teacher. Most often I have conflicts with my friend Maxim. What's this lesson of peace and justice useful for you? Yeah. Thank you very much. We're grateful to all the students who joined, who were in the schools talking to teachers. And I was thinking, like, if back then, when I was in school, they would come with such a lesson to my school, how much better my life could be. And yesterday I received a call from my school where my child is studying. I understood that the next lesson of peace and justice should be in our school. I think the earlier children start to manage the conflict solving, the better they can use their energy for the better. Thank you very much. And now we are ready to listen to another very interesting speech. It's all in the block of education. Education is the foundation, and the more robust the foundation is, the better it is both for the students and the teachers. Like, it helps in future profession and all relationships with people. So our next speech is from Elena Rizenko, Associate Professor of the Department of Administrative and Information Law, Institute of Law, Psychology and Innovative Education, Lviv Polytechnic National University. So it's about implementation of mediation in educational and student activity, experience and perspectives. Yes, on Monday, I was also engaged as a mediator at the lessons of peace and justice. This is how my week started. And this is the end of my week here with you. And I came here with some experience and ideas of how it can be further developed with my participation, with the participation of Lviv Polytechnic University. Let's start with the experience. I have the experience of work in Lviv National University of Veterinary Medicine, and this university is preparing also the bachelor's and master's in law. And there I had a possibility to work with a small number of students, and it allowed to do the individual approach, to talk to each student. And it gave us the opportunity to do a lot. Those were my students who brought me into mediations. Not just they brought me, they showed me how much I need this, that it's something very useful for my personal development and growth. They just sent me some links where I could go to the courses of excellence, etc. So from the very beginning, there was a discussion club for students. Aquitas created at the basis of this university. Aquitas is the name of the god of justice. And from the very beginning, we decided that the activity of the club will be concentrated at raising awareness about law, that the participants of the club will maintain the law training in universities and in schools. We were visiting a lot of schools with law lessons. Also, the participants of the clubs were um, responsible for maintaining the web pages in social media, the web page of the club, without any control from our side. And the students tell us, like, we want to do this and that event. We want to invite such and such professionals. This is what we're interested in. So they were telling us what they need, what they interested in order to develop, to gain the necessary skills that they would need for the future work in law field. And at one of such events, the participants of the club said that they want to discuss mediation, and they asked to invite someone who is really great in mediation. And because we're very interested in it, and the Lviv Center of Mediation came to us, Ms. Elena Korapel, who told about her advocacy activity as mediator, as teacher, and she told us a lot about mediation. And after the meeting, our students already had a lot of propositions that the mediation program should be included to the bachelor curriculum, that I should go and take the courses to be able to teach mediation, and also the proposition about popularization of mediation, and that they want to develop this topic at the level of university. As a result, indeed, mediation was introduced into the bachelor's curriculum. So there was law and business mediation. And the peculiar feature of this program, of this curriculum, was the legal assistance of entrepreneurship. That's why we called it business mediation. But we started from the very basics of the mediation. And during this conference, I've been thinking that the presence of so many mediators and presence of people who have this unique skill creates some kind of portal. When, for example, mediator came to us and the portal of opportunities was created. and new curriculums were developed, and the possibilities for professional internship for the bachelors in the judicial field. There were trainings, additional courses in order to teach people how to use the diagnostics of variability of disputes. Also, the excellence courses for the teachers were open at the basis of the university. And 6 hours were given to media competencies. Also, they would come from our university trade union to help them when we had some labor disputes in the university. So the portal has been opened. The mediation came to the university, it came to the academia, to the teachers, to students, to the whole life of the university. This is how it works. And when I'm here today, I again have this feeling of some kind of magic portal being open. I'm now working at the Department of Informational and Administrational Law, Psychology and Innovative Education at Lviv Polytechnic University. It's a very multidisciplinary approach. We really want to be able to use everything possible. And I hope and I know that once the possibility is open, we'll be able to prepare the first proposal for tomorrow practical meeting. I have my own experience of the circle of 100 or even 200 students in this Institute of Law, Psychology and Innovational Education at the Lviv National Polytechnic University. There are more than 4,000 students. There are professors, there are teachers who possess very valuable skill, who can form the basis, who are ready now to give the lectures, to give the trainings, to make sure everyone can use this portal that has been open at the Lviv Polytechnic University. I hope our institute will be this gate and pathway to this. I'm very grateful for your attention and this possibility. And we're going to have some practical work tomorrow as the question of mediation. Thank you very much. Thanks. It was a very inspirational speech. Thank you very much. We continue to do the research of mediation and peace building. Now our next speaker is from Singapore, Singapore International Chamber. He's a master in construction law and alternative disputes resolution. His speech is in the creation of culture of peace building according to Singapore Convention of Mediation and Work with Youth. Mr. Anil, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me? It was just that the host had to unmute me. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. It is 11 p.m. in Singapore, and I just finished attending a musical, and it was called Dear Evan Hansen, and it was about a boy, a youth, and problems with youth. All right. So thank you so much for having me be here. In the chat, I've just attached my paper, and I'm going to be talking to you about what my paper is. And so you find my paper in the attachment. So now my topic is empowering youth and building a culture of peace. the role of mediation and the Singapore Convention. All right. Now, empowering the youth to become active peace builders is very essential in the current world that we have, where social, political, economic tension exists. You find that if we train our youth with mediation and some aspects of the Singapore Convention, you find that we are in a better world, right? Mediation basically offers young people the tools to navigate conflict constructively, fostering empathy, communication, and problem-solving skills, right? Now, if you integrate mediation education into the universities and youth program, you find that societies can cultivate a generation of new people that look at problems in a way of wanting to solve it and not be confrontational, all right? Now, I'm not sure whether you know about the Singapore Convention on Mediation. It's something that came out in 2019. I will talk about that a little bit. But what the Singapore Convention on Mediation does is to reinforce this vision of providing an international framework of the enforcement of mediated settlements. So it allows you to enforce it internationally, and so therefore makes it very strong, right? Now, beyond the legal significance of the Singapore Convention, you find that it's a mechanism of appropriate dispute resolution. I know many of you use the term alternate dispute resolution, ADR, but I call it appropriate dispute resolution because you look at what is more appropriate, right? It's no longer an alternate to going to court or going to arbitration, but you look at what is most appropriate, okay? So now, I want to thank all of you for being here and being present at this event. And it's a real privilege for me to speak to you on the topic that is really at the heart of what we can do in the future. Empowering the youth and building a culture of peace, and how appropriate dispute resolution like the Singapore Convention can help you. Now, we live in a world where social, political, and economic tension are escalating. From community disputes to global conflicts, we are witnessing a fracture of the threatening the society. And yet, we can also witnessing sometimes profoundly hopeful that if you look at the path of trying to solve your problems through mediation, through dialogue, justice, and peace, you're going to find the world coming together and working together. Now, why youth empowerment? Why do I say youth is the right place to go? Young people are often described as tomorrow's leaders, but in reality, they are today's influencers. Today, what you do with your AI technology and everything that you use, you can bridge the gap between senior people and the kind of problems they face, and you can be really a catalyst in moving us forward, right? Your digital, the use of digital navigation, your multicultural space, your activities, youngsters are talking about climate justice, gender equality, human rights. If you put all of that together and work towards using it, mediation as a platform, you're going to find you can get very far, right? Many young people are growing up in an environment where there's conflict. It's normal, especially in Ukraine, in the Middle East and all of that. You find a whole lot of conflict and hostility. But if you take a step back and realize that we all share this world and we should be sharing the resources and everything else, you then start to realize that you want to go down a path of trying to look at things in a form of trying to solve problems. And mediation equips people with an understanding, a communication skill, how to descale tension, how to bring down tension. And mediation helps you do that, all right? Now, mediation as a transformative skill for the youth. When we introduce mediation into our universities, our school, and our youth program, we are not merely teaching techniques. We are actually cultivating a mindset, saying that you're going out there and you say, I can listen before I react. I can seek understanding. even when we disagree, and I can choose dialogue instead of confrontation. These skills were really what the youth can do and help us, right? Now, if I talk now a little bit about the Singapore Convention on Mediation, right? What it is it's a multilateral treaty which offers a uniform and efficient framework for the enforcement and of international settlement agreements by mediation. So if you have two parties, one's an international party and one is your party from your country, you decide to have your matter settled by mediation, and if you sign an agreement, it can be enforced. So in July 2018, the convention was finalized at the United Nations Commission session. It was the 51st UNCITRAL Commission session, and it amended the model law. And in December 2018, it called itself the Singapore Convention on Mediation. Now, on the 7th of August 2019, 46 countries from around the world came to Singapore to sign the convention, including the US and China, right? And today, as of yesterday, we have 58 countries that have signed on and 19 countries that have made it part of their law. They've made this in Singapore Convention on Mediation part of law. So it gives you a force that it's enforceable around the world, right? Now, what the convention does is this. It facilitates international trade and commerce by enabling disputing parties to easily enforce and invoke the settlement agreement across borders. Businesses will benefit from mediation as an additional dispute resolution option. You don't have to go to litigation. You don't have to go to arbitration to settle cross-border disputes. And that's what the Singapore Convention does, right? Now, it elevates mediation. That means it moves up mediation from the old school of, it's not so forceful, it's not strong, it's a soft excuse. But it allows parties to now get into dialogue with the power of a settlement agreement that can be enforced across the world. And that's what the Singapore Convention does. Now, how do you then bring this convention to youth and peace building? What does the international legal instrument, the Singapore Convention, have to do with young people? It has to do with everything with the young people, because the value embedded from the Singapore Convention, that is what the Singapore Convention can do, it's a constructive dialogue, mutual understanding and respect between diverse interests all come together, and people can sit down and resolve the dispute. Now, when you use the youth to engage in mediation, using the mediation principles alongside the knowledge of global framework like the convention, they see mediation as a credible path of resolving disputes, right? So what you can do is that if we train our youth on peace building and mediation, we can get to a place where everybody will want to try and solve their problems and not get into a fight. Now, when you talk about building a culture of peace, a culture of peace is not achieved through treaties alone. It is about people understanding that they want to solve their problems and not get into a big fight. Now, the culture of peace grows when communities come together and you try and do it by mediation. And so therefore, it's really quite important if you have youth being trained on mediation. Right? So I just want to make some concluding remarks, last comments I say. As we look ahead, the question is not whether the youth can shape a more peaceful world, because they are already doing that. The real question is whether or not we are doing enough to equip them to support them. So if you train your youth and in the universities with mediation, right, and teach them the skill sets of mediation, they are going to go out to the world and put that into practice, right? And the Singapore Convention provides this backbone of a very concrete way of solving your problems. So let us therefore really commit ourselves to integrating mediation education for the universities, for the schools, and teach our youth what we can do. Now, universities can therefore position their youth, right, and send them out to the world as mediators. And together we can build a world where peace is not merely an absence of conflict, but is the presence of understanding, justice, and cooperation. right? Now, I don't know whether you notice, let me just show you this. I have this badge here. I'm part of what is called the Rotary Club, and I have a club that's called the Rotary Club of Peace Builders. And we train youth on dispute resolution, conflict avoidance, and protection, things like cyberbullying and all those kind of things. So my point of my talk is that if you can train the youth, right, in mediation skills, you're teaching them a skill set that they can take out to the world and practice it, right? And showcase that you don't have to be in a fight. You have to be, you want to sit down, look at what the parties' interests are, and at the end of the day, come to a settlement. And the best people to do that is the youth. And if we can train them in the universities, train them in the schools, we are going to get to where we want to get to, right? And that's it. That's all I want to talk to you all about educating the youth in the universities with peace building. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil.
Thank you very much, dear Anil, for presenting such an innovative approach. Thank you for sharing it with us. Indeed, having young people engaged in the promotion of mediation is a very promising initiative. Thank you very much again for your contribution. I will now hand it over to the next speaker, Ms. Katarina Narovska, President of the NGO National Association of Mediators of Ukraine, mediator, supervisor, training, lecturer, facilitator, educator, and lawyer. Tomorrow, Katarina will facilitate a workshop dedicated to teaching basic mediation skills. Thank you very much for having me here, and I truly hope that after this announcement, you will come tomorrow and participate. I would like to make a short historical overview. 30 years ago, there were the very first enthusiasts and champions of mediation, including in the walls of this university. For the first time, mediation started to be taught on the law department of this university. Then in 2016, the first attempts to promote mediation were made. The first draft laws started to be developed. The standard of mediation was introduced. In 2017, the first joint code of ethics for mediators was developed. That was the first one covering the whole mediation community. It was developed with the support of the Ukrainian Academy of Mediation. The code listed everything which we may want to have in the law. In 2019, new developments arose, and the first draft law was submitted before Parliament. 2020 was marked by the COVID pandemics. The draft law was suspended, but in order not to change the existing standards of mediation, the Code of Ethics was complemented with the standards of online mediation. In 2021, the a review of the code of ethics took place in order to see what was functioning well and what was not so well from the practical standpoint with the code of ethics. At the end of 2021, the law on mediation was adopted. That was a logical result of a more than 10-year dialogue between the mediation community and the government. And now in 2025, we have some regulations in place which were adopted as a follow-up to the draft law, to the law on mediation. But that was 5 years ago. Isn't it high time to have them reviewed? I beg to agree with that. Now let me say a few words about myself. My name is Katerina Nawrocka. I'm a mediator. I was a university lecturer for 27 years. Currently, I'm head of the Association of Mediators of Ukraine. And as you can imagine, my experience in the field is quite extensive. So if you click the link that is demonstrated on your screen, you can have access to the declaration on the acknowledgement and joinment. You need to close this document, and then you may go forward, go on with the brochure. So if you look at the structure of the brochure, you'll see that it is quite well done. So there is a purpose of creating this brochure. So we also outlined how the training of mediators should be organized, what competences need to be developed with the mediators. So at that time, we were looking into best practices and to worst practices as well. So we were looking into what should not be applied under any circumstances, what is not that acceptable, what is better not to apply. Now, if you scroll down, you find a part dedicated to the stages of training and mediation. So we wanted to start with a really small thing in terms of training. So in our view, the first sessions should be very short, given some idea of what mediation is. Then at a further stage, some basic skills should be taught. Then a session dedicated to the definition of various audiences should take place, and the fourth session should be dedicated to the course of mediation as such. And here we are talking about 4 components of basic training on mediation. So as of now, what is the existing state of play? We have several documents which are available online, but several documents means several links, and now we need to think of how merge it all together, because people are reluctant to explore several sources dedicated to the same topic. Besides, The mediation process has become more trauma-informed. We cannot ignore the existing circumstances. That is why trauma-informed approaches are very much in demand when it comes to mediation. Besides, we need to face the new reality. There are much more servicemen, military persons compared to the before war period. There are specific types of mediation which start being required. All this leads to a situation where mediators need to change their approaches. We need we as mediators need to take into account that our audience is not shaped yet. We need to do our best to involve clients at this stage and to be able to hold them for a while. It is also a high time to talk about interaction between mediators and public authorities, mediators and economic agents. So we need to talk about how they should interact, what is ethical, what is not in line with the existing ethics, what is acceptable or not acceptable. The marketing aptitude of mediators gains more importance in these days because mediators need to be able to talk about their services and to reach out their audience. But in this brochure, we brought together the most relevant data, the most relevant information about what is mediation, how it should be, mediators should be trained, and how mediators should be introduced to legal training at universities. I also call on you as mediators to be proactive, to ask questions and to contribute to the development of mediation in our country. Back in 2014, there were 12 people in the association I'm currently president of. Currently, there are some 200 participants, and we are talking about one single association here. So let us work together, let us cooperate and come up with such important documents as the one that I presented to you. I will try to be as precise and concise as possible, but in the course of my speech, I remembered so many important things that I decided to cover them, and it took me 12 minutes. So you asked me what gives me inspiration to continue all these efforts in the area of mediation. My answer would be satisfaction, because it is so satisfying to see how people changes, how situations change, and how they transfer come from distress to hope and better mutual understanding. We have one more speaker within this panel, and my co-moderator will present him. Indeed, it is very interesting to see how mediation is implemented in the academic field, in the academic environment. I invite Professor Andrei Hirnik, professor of the Department of Psychology and Pedagogy, candidate of PhD professor of Kiev Mahila Academy. He will intervene on the topic experience of teaching mediation at the bachelor's degree. Thank you very much. Please allow me sharing my presentation. Can you see my presentation? Yeah, it's great. So I will speak about how mediation is taught in Kiev Mahila Academy University at the bachelor degree. I understand that everybody is tired, so I'll try to be really short and straight to the point. In 1998, we started this curriculum for students. So it is in place for more than 20 years. We are talking here about introduction of mediation in the framework of the training course Psychology of Conflict and Culture of Behavior in Conflict Situations. Mediation is taught within the framework of this training course. In the previous years, there were several formats that we would apply, mandatory courses, optional courses. Currently, there are some disciplines which are taught in the framework of the mediation curriculum, which is currently a curriculum apart. The training is very practice-oriented. We have a lot of case studies, a lot of role plays that we used for teaching mediation. I would say that practical tasks are some 50% constitute some 50% of the curriculum. Particular attention was paid to conflict resolution between two parties using mediation.
He held his seminars in Ukraine in the year 2000. We all know the story of about the river and crocodiles. So then Bert recommended to resolve through the mediation a number of situations, and it's interesting for students. They see the developments in this story, and we know more about this initial participants. So about river and crocodiles, and then extra 6 cases between the participants of this situation and some protagonists that were not involved in the first case study, but that are related to these problems. I'd like to say that each of the cases was unique and it helped resolve specific situations. Vanna and Abigail are professional conflict, and Sinbad and Gregory Sr. is a conflict between businessmen that fight for the right to dispose of the money that the state has given to overcome the consequences of the natural disaster. They are leaders of their communities, and they reflect interests of local citizens and displaced persons. Gregorian slag is a conflict of men who had a fight because of a woman. Still, that is actually a conflict of different social stratas, unemployed and businessmen, village residents, and city residents. Students worked on these cases. In a group of 4, 2 of them were participants of the conflict. One was a mediator and another was an observer. Also, we used a case developed by Sofia Hrabowska, and believe everybody knows her, a case between the residents of a residential building and an organization of youth that rents flat to use it as an office in this residential building. It's a more difficult example of work. It gave students some experience, but we see that sometimes students laugh, etc. So we, no matter how we try to make them be serious, still they feel that it is just a case study and not a real life conflict. So we wanted to have something help them work on applying this knowledge to a specific situation. We suggested to the students that they analyze the negotiations by popular TV shows. For example, Kate, the intermediary. Each of the students chose one episode, and then the protagonists had negotiations, and they had to analyze based on those categories on the systems that we taught them during our course, verbal and nonverbal strategies and practical approaches, and so on and so forth. And then the most interesting from the standpoint of the students and from my standpoint, it was another creative piece of work where the student had to mediate a situation between a library and a reader who did not return the books taken from the library. Each of such students really received the contact details of these people who failed to return the books, and we did that together in cooperation with the library management, with the people involved. I will not describe that the outcomes in detail. You can learn more about them from publications we have produced. The students were especially satisfied with the last piece of work. At first, it was a little bit scary for them, but then they were able to manage those situations. We taught them how to resolve those conflicts, and then they really were very pleased with that. We had been creating this system over 20 years, and we'll be happy to contribute to that even more. I'd like to say something else here. Our program is in line with the law of Ukraine and mediation, and at the end of the program, we were able to provide to persons such qualification, but we don't do that. First, we didn't create a register, and we still consider this program as shaping basic skills that people need in the 21st century. How to have a nonviolent way of addressing conflicts at work, in families, with subordinates if the person is to become a manager, etc. So we have specific examples when our students continue to learn what mediation is abroad from foreign institutions, but that's not our purpose to train mediators. Over 1,000 of people have received these certificates. We don't want to compete with people who really do that to earn money, and we just would do it free of charge for students to get extra skills. So we didn't want to be competing with the the service providers. Thank you, dear Andre. It was very useful for us to hear your speech, dear colleagues, dear participants, speakers. We heard very deep and inspiring topics. We covered a huge range of topics, international initiatives, skills, etc. And that is the culture of peace building. Therefore, it is extremely valuable, and we see that the educational and scientific dimensions of mediation are not in parallel, but they are very much overlapping and interrelated, because I see how much it is interrelated. Over to Mariana. We are about to finalize our event. We see how all the portals open. There was a request to have interaction with the academia, to have it in Lviv Polytechnic University. The portal is open. The people who initiated this conference wanted to have this good location, and the universe contributed to us so that we can have our wonderful conference here. I thank everyone, all the co-organizers that had been meeting months in advance, that had been working tirelessly to make this conference work. It's extremely valuable. I hope that our fire of motivations always stays strong, and we understand that it's not in vain. And I just want to take a minute to say that we have a meeting with the students who are graduating from the Lviv Trade University that play a vital role in further developing the system of mediation. And we are very grateful for this coordination and the fact that students show that they teach teenagers about mediation. So all this time and efforts we have put into that really fructifies. That is extremely inspiring. Thank you all so much. And we hope this will help us be more resilient and consistent. I thank all the participants. I thank the people who are with us online. We thank all the organizers for the help they have provided. We thank our students that inspire us. Thank you for your smiling faces. We are happy together with our students now. All the participants see you. We thank all the students of the higher education establishments who are present here. We really work for you. We work for universities to make sure that you build a better and more friendly future, where we will be very happily living in our independent, prosperous, and happy Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine, to all our heroes. We thank you for being able to work today without air raid alerts, without any anxieties. Of course, it's not always everywhere, but we thank our defenders for giving us a chance to have this shelter, to get this particle of air warmth, that they give us support. I thank all the participants. Maybe Luisa would like also to take the floor to close our event today. I want to thank you for the wonderful moderation, for you, Mariana, Marina, for your help. I'm extremely happy that our day is coming to an end. We had a power supply. We didn't have to have breaks because it's always a stressful factor whether we'll be able to stay online. I'm happy that we made it work today, that we dedicated today to the topic of mediation. Everyone who has sent their papers, it's extremely inspiring how much attention you pay to mediation. In the academic community, we thank you for all the surveys that you have conducted. I'd like to say briefly that we also have tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to have an offline masterclass for students in Lviv by Anna Zuk. Offline, we are going to have in Lviv meeting for professors and lecturers moderated and facilitated by Katerina Darovska. And everyone who is online tomorrow, you are going to have a great masterclass by Lev Turin. So at 10, you are going to have an online masterclass by the same link. It's going to be interesting. Please join us. Tomorrow we work only half a day to be able to work on practical skills and speak of niche topics. Thank you for being here with us. I also want to thank our interpreters, Simona and Natalia and Diana are still here. Thank you so much for your wonderful interpretation, for giving us an opportunity to understand each other and get all the aspects that the speaker wanted to mention to us, irrespective of the language we spoke in. I also want to thank the tech support team and all the co-organizers and partners to make sure that this event took place. Thank you. And have a good and safe evening, everyone. Thank you, dear Luisa. And we Ukrainians are very resilient. And the most resilient get some extra incentives. And just a few minutes back, you have this wonderful thermocups that you are going to get. We are extremely happy that we have been able to get this package delivered, and we are very happy to share these waves of cooperation, and we hope that those waves are going to last a long while. And also we have an excursion that will take place in 3 minutes. Thank you so much.